Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS NBA Tuesday. We got 5 games on the board. As far as Monday night, had a winning night. It wasn't an explosive one. I went 2-2, but my biggest bet was Ohio State in the national championship. So the streak continues. 6 consecutive winning days. You'll love to see it. Hopefully it continues here. 5 NBA games on Tuesday night. Let's get into it.
I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points?
I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get this to us. First up, we got Portland on the road at Miami. Here, the Heat are laying 10.5 points at home, and the total sitting at 219.5. Take a look at the matchup overview. Projected score 113.8 to 104.8 in favor of the Heat. In the last 10 games, Portland's 25th in offensive rating, 23rd in defensive rating. The Heat, 23rd and 15th. Injury report for Portland. We got Shadon Sharp listed as questionable. Chris Murray listed as questionable. Robert Williams III is listed as questionable. No Klingon for Portland. They do have Advia back, which is huge. We'll talk about it in a second. He's been back. He came back last game. That's not brand new, but he missed a few games there. He is back for Portland. On the Miami side, it's just Josh Richardson, who's been hurt. That's not new. Other than that, the Miami Heat are at full strength here. So let's talk about this matchup. And Jimmy Butler is back. We've seen the Heat play 2 games since Butler's return. First one was pretty ugly, especially in the fourth quarter, I should say. Denver ended up winning that game 133 to 113. But then they followed it up with a really impressive home win against the Spurs, 128-107. And the Heat offense looked great against the Spurs defense that's been pretty good. Over 64% true shooting percentage, over 62% effective field goal percentage, shot over 54% from 3. Obviously, that's not sustainable, but it's nice to see the Heat offense looking really good against the Spurs defense that's been pretty solid recently. And this is to be expected. I pointed this out when Jimmy Butler first came back. If you look at Miami's last 24 games before Butler returned, 12 of them had Jimmy Butler on the court, 12 of them did not. And if you isolate their offensive numbers here, 9-day difference. So having Jimmy Butler on the floor matters, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The Heat offense without Butler, not very reliable. But the Heat offense with Jimmy Butler out there, they can actually be pretty good. They're matched up against a Portland defense who, let's give them some credit. Excellent defensive performance against the Bulls on Sunday. 100 defensive rating, effective field goal percentage under 50%. It's actually a dominant defensive performance here from Portland. But we can't ignore that in the previous 5 games, they were looking absolutely dreadful on the defensive side of the ball. In the 5 games before the Bulls game, defensive rating at 122. 64% defensive rebounding rate is terrible. They're getting cleaned up on their defensive glass. Over 57% opponent effective field goal percentage. So this Portland defense looked absolutely terrible for the 5 games before the Bulls game. They did play well against Chicago, but this is not a Portland defense that I trust in the slightest. And this Heat team, I mean, they've had their ups and downs this year, but one thing they've been pretty consistent with, they handle their business against bad defenses. Against bottom 10 defenses this year, they're 10-4 against the spread, 9-5 straight up. So again, the Heat haven't been all that reliable this season, but when they play bad defenses, they have been pretty profitable to bet on. So obviously, Portland most definitely a bottom 10 defense. Not to mention these 2 teams just played. The Heat won comfortably. That was on the road in Portland, January 11th, so about a week and a half ago, 119-98 in favor of the Heat. We do have to mention that obviously there was no Jimmy Butler. There was also no DeAndre Ayton in this game. So no Butler, no Ayton. But the Heat went on the road to Portland, beat the Christ out of the Blazers. So at this point, I'm thinking, all right, Miami just went on the road to Portland and handled this team easily. Now they're back home with Jimmy Butler on the floor. I don't see any reason why they can't win this game comfortably again by double digits again. One thing that kept me from betting it is right here. So like I said before, Avdija missed 3 games in there. He just came back. In the 3 games he didn't play, Portland got wrecked. They were 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread. But actually, the last 6 games that Avdija played for Portland, they're 5-1 against the number. So I'm really not trying to lay 10.5 points to a team that's 5-1 against the spread the last 6 times when they have him on the floor. He's not always in the starting lineup, but he usually gets 30, 35 minutes, or he has been as of late. This is an important piece for Portland. He's playing in this one, so I'm not really trying to lay the big number. Also, Miami has a history of being a terrible team to lay a big number with at home, so I can't do it. I mean, personally, I think the Heat do win this comfortably, but I'm not going to lay it. This will be a pass for me. Miami or pass. Next game. Orlando on the road in Toronto. The Raps are catching 2 or 2.5, depending on your sports book. Total sitting at 215.5. Let's take a look at the matchup overview. Projected score 106.3 for the Magic, 105 for the Raptors. Last 10 games, the Magic offensive rating is dead last. 30th. The worst offense in the NBA in the last 10 games, but they're 10th in defensive rating, 21st in strength of schedule. Raptors are pretty bad themselves, 24th, 29th, but their strength of schedule is 4th in the last 10 games. So that's one thing you do have to give Toronto. They have played a bit of a tough schedule. As far as injury reports, obviously, we're talking about the Magic, so they're riddled with injuries. That's not new. Still no Jalen Suggs, still no Franz Wagner, still no Batadze either. He's been ruled out as well. Gary Harris is listed as questionable, so hopefully the Magic will get him back out there. But yeah, this Magic team is crushed with injuries right now. On the Toronto side, we got no Quickly still. This will be, I believe, the 4th game since he got injured again. He came back, then got hurt again. No Abaji either. All right, so let's talk about this matchup. And right off the bat, I'm thinking there's no way I can lay points on the road with this Magic team right now. I mean, in the last 3 games since they lost Suggs and Batadze, in the last 3 games, they've been missing both those guys. I mean, they can't defend. They can't score. They're 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread. They have an offensive rating of 98. That's absolutely terrible. That is truly awful. A 122 defensive rating. This Orlando team, normally you can hang your hat on their defense. The defenses even look like shit in the last few games. Look at the rebounding rate, under 46%. That's terrible. They've played 3 consecutive awful basketball games missing these 2 pieces. These 2 pieces are not back. So right off the bat, I'm like, there's no way I can bet Orlando here. But to be honest, the more I looked at it, the more I kind of liked Orlando. But real quick, something I noticed, check this out. The last 10 games, the Raptors are playing bad defense, bad offense. That's nothing special. They did that in the previous 10 games as well. But look specifically at the pace. Previous 10 games, pace over 104, which is normal. Raptors run a super fast pace, same as they did last year. But look at the last 10 games. Pace under 97. Under 97 possessions per game. That's super slow, and that is not what we've come to expect from the Raptors. They're running a really slow pace right now. If it was only 2 or 3 games, I'd say screw it. Just 2 or 3 games, that ain't nothing. But we're talking about a 10-game sample size here with a pace under 97. The Raptors are running a slow pace right now. This is what they're doing. And they're playing Orlando, who's one of the slowest paced teams in the NBA, same as they were last year, under 95 possessions per game in their last 12 games. Orlando's running a super slow pace right now. Look at the offensive rating, 102.5. You see what I'm getting at here? We got the Raptors, who are running a very slow pace. You got the Magic, who are running an even slower pace. And you have 2 terrible offenses. So yeah, I'm looking at the under here. Now, if you're trying to get to a side, I know I was just talking shit about the Magic earlier, but check this out. If you like Orlando, you'll like this. One thing you have to give the Magic this year, despite all the injuries, they have handled their shit when they've seen bad teams. Against bottom 10 offenses this year, they're 10-5 against the spread, 12-3 straight up. Against bottom 10 defenses, 12-5 against the spread and 14-3 straight up. So say what you want about the Magic. They're injured, they look terrible, but they have handled their business against bad teams. So that's kind of interesting. That would point me over towards the Orlando side, especially now that it's down to 2. It was 3 earlier. But honestly, what I did was I took the under at 216. Maybe the Raptors show up and decide they want to play like they were a month ago and run a fast pace. I'll probably get screwed on this low number at 216. But based on the way these 2 teams are playing right now in the last couple weeks, I mean, I'd be surprised if this game gets triple digits. It might be 98-96 based on how they played the last couple weeks. So I'm on the under here. 216 next game. New York Knicks are on the road, but not very far, just over in Brooklyn. Nets are catching 10.5 points, total sitting at pretty much 220 here. Let's take a look at the matchup overview. Projected score 108.3 for the Knicks, 101.97 for the Nets. Last 10 games, the Knicks struggling on the defensive side of the ball. Nets are struggling on every side of the ball, but specifically the Knicks defense. I don't know what's going on with Thibodeau's team right now, but they're 25th in defensive rating in their last 10 games, 14th on the offensive side. And like I said, the Nets are terrible at everything, 29th and 26th against the 14th strongest schedule. Injury-wise, Karl Anthony Towns has been removed from the injury report, which is huge for the Knicks. Same goes for Josh Hart. Both of those guys were banged up the last couple games. Neither are on the injury report for this one. So the Knicks are going to be at full strength with the exception of Mitchell Robinson, who's been out all year, by the way. On the Brooklyn side, obviously we've got injuries out the ass. I mean, that's not new. Still no Cam Thomas, no Bogdanovich, no Zaire Williams, too. He was just playing, so that's a new one. D'Angelo Russell, questionable. Ben Simmons, questionable. Not sure what we could really do with this game without knowing who's going to play for Brooklyn. But one thing I will say is the Knicks do own their little brother, the Nets. They've won 8 in a row. Just 4-3-1 against the spread, though. The Nets have actually covered a couple recently. But for the most part, last 2 or 3 years, the Knicks haven't had problems with Brooklyn. Like I said, the Nets are the Knicks' little brother in this city. When it comes to making a bet in this game, I gotta say, when it comes to the Knicks, such a tough team to handicap right now, the way they're playing. Check this out. So in the last 9 games, I pulled up the last 9 games for both teams. Look at the Knicks. Offensive rating over 115. They're scoring at a very good rate. I mean, the offense looks fine. Defensive rating over 118. That's bad. Pace at 97. So what do we do with this? I mean, 97 pace, you want to take an under. But how can you take an under if the Knicks are scoring at a high rate and letting up points at a high rate? But also, how can you take an over if they're running 97 possessions per game? Kind of pulling us in both directions there. And on the Brooklyn side, how do you take an over when their offense is terrible, a 102 offensive rating, but at the same time, how could you take an under with the Knicks with an offensive rating up close to 116 against the Nets defense? The Knicks should be able to score in every possession against Brooklyn. So how can you take an under, but at the same time, how could you take an over with 2 teams that run 97 possessions per game? This should be a super slow-paced basketball game. So kind of getting pulled in all directions here. I know the Knicks did just play. This is a back-to-back. Kind of don't care. It would only be Knicks for me here. I didn't bet this one. I'm not laying 10.5, especially the way the Knicks are playing defense right now. But I mean, if D'Angelo Russell doesn't play, if Ben Simmons doesn't play, we've seen how bad this Nets team is, missing all those pieces. So Knicks minus 10.5 for pass for me. Next game. Sixers on the road in Denver. The Nuggets are laying 13.5 points at home. Total sitting at 228.5 mostly. Let's take a look at the matchup overview. Projected score 112.7 for Denver, 102 for Philly. Last 10 games, I mean, it's not even close. The Sixers are 22nd in offensive rating, 27th in defensive rating, 22nd in strength of schedule. So it's not like they've even played a strong schedule in the last 10. Meanwhile, Denver's 4th, 8th against the 8th strongest schedule. So Denver's been significantly better than Philadelphia against a significantly stronger schedule. In terms of injuries, obviously, as I'm sure you've heard, Philadelphia is a mess. Paul George is questionable. Yabusele's questionable. Andre Drummond is questionable. Still no Embiid. Still no Caleb Martin. McCain, obviously, he's out for a while. Still no Kyle Lowry. So Philadelphia nowhere near healthy right now. On the Denver side, they're completely good to go. No injury designations for the Denver Nuggets. I know 13.5 is a huge number, but we're talking about a fully healthy Nuggets team at home that's looked really good. I mean, the only way they don't cover this is if they come out flat, which I suppose is possible. It's not a very meaningful game for the Nuggets, an Eastern Conference team, a bad Eastern Conference team who's missing all their main piece or some of their main pieces. So maybe the Nuggets come out flat, but if the Nuggets want to win this game by 20 plus points, they very easily can, the way the Sixers are playing. Philadelphia has also been a terrible team to bet as road underdogs. I believe they're 3-9 against the spread, something like that. I'm doing that from memory. I believe they're 3-9 against the spread as road underdogs. So in this spot, it's been terribly costly to back Philadelphia. So I actually might even bet this. I'm kind of talking myself into it. Denver minus 13.5. I haven't bet it as of yet. As of right now, the only bet I have down is the Orlando-Toronto under. But I might lay the 13.5 because Philly's terrible. Next game. Wizards are on the road in Los Angeles. Here the Lakers are laying 13, 12.5, somewhere in there. Total sitting at 229.5, pretty much across the board. Let's take a look at the matchup overview. Projected score, 118.7 for the Lakers, 105.9 for the Wizards. That just goes to show you how bad this Wizards team has been, because the Lakers aren't even playing well right now, and they're still projected to win by 13 points. Last 10 games, the Wizards are basically the worst team in basketball. They're 28th in offensive rating, dead last in defensive rating, and that's against the 23rd strongest schedule. So it's not like they've played a grueling schedule either. But I mean, at the same time, the Lakers look pretty bad as well. Look at the Lakers' defensive rating here in the last 10 games, 28th. They're playing terrible on the defensive side of the ball. At least they've played a stronger schedule, though. They're 9th in strength of schedule in the last 10 games. But it's tough to even consider laying 12.5 points with the Lakers. I mean, the way they're playing defense, there's no way I can lay 12.5. Washington's going to be in pretty good shape injury-wise for this one. No Brogdon, no Bagley, but that's not new. Both of those guys have been out for a while. So in terms of the guys that have been playing for the Wizards, they're all going to be active for this one. On the Lakers side, I mean, it's the Lakers. You know, we got injury question marks everywhere. I have Austin Reeves listed as questionable. Let me just confirm that. I don't remember seeing that. No, he's not questionable. So by the time you're seeing this, that graphic will be removed. We got Anthony Davis listed as questionable, and he sat out a game recently. And we got LeBron listed as probable. So pretty much business as usual for the Lakers. Look, I already hinted at it before. I kind of want to take the Wizards, but I think the over might be the better look here. I mean, what's a little concerning is the Lakers are running such a slow pace in the last 10 games, 27th in pace, 30th in pace in the last 5. But this Wizards team does nothing but run. In the last 5 games, they're 1st in pace, 5th in pace in the last 10 games. So maybe against the Wizards, the Lakers will feel inclined to get out and run. The Wizards are just always in a fast-paced basketball game, so I can see the Lakers just playing a fast-paced game because that's what the Wizards want to do, and the Lakers should have no problem scoring points playing that kind of game. I will say the Wizards should have some opportunities to score points on this Lakers defense. Like I said before, the Lakers are playing terrible defense right now, and the Wizards, like I said before, they like to push the tempo. They're 9th in transition frequency. The Lakers defensively 21st in efficiency in transition, so this is not a good fast break defense. The Wizards like to run. Also, the Wizards have been launching threes. In the last 10 games, they're 3rd in above the break 3 frequency. They're not hitting them. They're 24th in efficiency, but the Lakers defense has been so bad out there. They've been so bad against those above the break 3-point shots. So if there's ever a defense where the Wizards can get hot and start hitting some threes against, it's this Lakers defense. So we don't even need to look at the numbers for the Wizards defense. The Lakers can score points, but I think the Wizards offense is capable of scoring points on the Lakers right back. So in my opinion, you either got to go Wizards or you got to take the over 229.5. I don't know if I actually bet this one, but I'll say over 229.5 for this one. Live show is going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Quick announcement, I'm going to Las Vegas for 3 days. So I will not be on the live show, but Prop Beaver's going to be producing it. And I got guests. We got Lindy, Modi, Chris, Ski. I also got Toast doing the midnight stream. So nothing's changing in terms of the live stream. You just won't see my face on it for 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But I'll be back on the weekend for the NFL and everything. So I'll see you all 4 p.m. for the live stream. We got NBA, got a lot of college basketball. I got 3 college basketball bets open. I like them too. 3 college basketball bets open. So yeah, see you all at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Later.